A couple years ago, an Applebee's campaign came out of a Kansas victory against the Texas Longhorns. Now, Kansas is not quite the underdog. I mean, they are an underdog of 17 points, but Kansas is nationally ranked at number 24, Texas at number 3. But what's the matchup or storyline that stands out the most to you about the Longhorns test here in the Big 12?
I really think that it is Texas defense against Kansas's offense. Kansas has one of the absolute most fun offenses in the country. I'm going to botch his name, but Andy Kotelnicki, I think it is how we say
Kotelnicki,
it.
yep.
Kotelnicki. Dude is great. Like they mess with safeties, they manipulate coverages, they create coverage busts. Yet they find creative ways to run the football. Daniels, the quarterback, is really good at operating that system and can at times make some hard throws. I don't think Kansas is amazing at receiver. The Grimm kid is kind of like a hybrid receiver tight end guy. I do like him. They really do such a great job of putting their guys in good position. However, and there is a however here, a lot of it is based off the run game. And if Texas is able to shut down this run game out of a too high look, or just, you may have to go a little one high, but like not just everybody screaming downhill every time. If Texas defensive line can give Kansas problems to where it doesn't really matter how experienced Kansas offense is, and they all play together and they run such a great diversity of scheme. If Texas can just whip them up front, which honestly, they did a pretty good job of against Alabama, and they destroyed Baylor over the weekend, which we know has problems, but still. If Texas can whip them up front, then you might see Kansas struggle. Because I don't know if Kansas is a great play from behind team if you don't have to care about the play action stuff that much.
I don't think this matchup is that dissimilar to the one we were just talking about.
Really?
There's a mismatch in the trenches, and that's my big concern too, because Kansas is running the ball. I think they're 12th in the country. They're rushing over 200 yards a game. Good luck doing to get that. Last year, we saw Texas and kind of got to have it embarrassed the year before, rushed for 400 yards against them last year. I kind of like Texas. It's in Austin. It's back home. I just feel like Austin had the wake-up call against Wyoming. I think the good and the bad was a couple years ago. Kansas, what a great story. They beat Texas, but there's zero chance of look ahead. I think this is kind of one of those bad matchups for Kansas. I think they're going to get pushed around a little bit in the trenches. And the only thing that I think can neutralize that is Jalon Daniels.
I think their offensive line could struggle. I think their defensive line is pretty good. They took some transfers over the offseason on that defensive line. And while I think Texas's offensive line is very good and it's going to be the toughest test they have faced so far, that from what I've seen from the Jayhawks defensive line, it is saltier than I think most people realize. In fact, you know who the number one defense in the country is havoc rate right now?
Who?
It's the Kansas Jayhawks. They don't get a ton of pressure. They don't really get home to the QB. But they win a lot of battles. They get a lot of running backs in the backfield. They blow some stuff up before it really gets started. And that, I think, is going to be a key for Texas if they can keep the pocket clean for Quinn Ewers. And another thing I think is going to matter in this game, because this is just a funny matchup to me. You'll remember Texas beat Alabama because Quinn Ewers was dropping rainbows 70 yards, big touchdowns. Texas needs to do that because Texas has been awful in the red zone. Texas in the red zone right now ranks 106 nationally in touchdown rate once they get inside the 20 at 50%. But a defense ranks 102nd in red zone touchdown defense? Kansas. So this is going to be a battle of a team who can't score in the red zone going up against a defense that can't keep you from scoring in the red zone. I think that'll be a critical point. Whichever one of those two spots does better, I think could lead to an outcome here. But I think Kansas has a better chance to cover the spread than I think Bud and Danny do. I don't know. Doesn't mean I'm going to pick it as
perceptions. They don't do a lot of stupid stuff they don't give you a lot of easy stuff. You have to go out there and execute. And if Texas executes with the level of athlete Texas has, they really play crisp, they'll blow them out.
Yeah, but they have, dude.
Right,
Texas,
that's what I'm saying.
Texas gives it up. Texas had 2 muffed putts. Jordan Whittington, Xavier Worthy gifted scoring opportunities to Baylor. The problem is it's Baylor led by Sawyer Robertson. And so I think you had an interception and a turnover on down. 0 points came from those. If you do that against Jalon Daniels is going to make you pay. I think Texas's run game is still kind of finding its legs. I don't think that is a consistent aspect of the way that this offense hums. This is the best quarterback that Texas's defense has faced. And I think that this is going to be a situation where if Texas is sloppy, then it's going to get a little bit sweaty later into the game. They were sloppy against Baylor, but Baylor wasn't good enough to make them pay. I'm big on Texas. I was very, very, very much of the belief this is the best team in the Big 12. I would like to see Texas in the college football playoff just because it would finally be an opportunity for that program and that head coach to capitalize on what has been seen as, a high ceiling that has not been reached in a very long time. I think that's a good story, fun to talk about. But in this game, I think that Texas's inability to be crisp and execute well in all phases of the game could end up hurting them against a team like Kansas.
One last thing on this. I do have a hard time getting out of my mind. Like, I watched that Texas-Kansas game last year. It was 55-14 in Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the quality of athlete did not look similar. The Kansas defense, all through spring, they were worried about their defensive ends, right? Texas has good offensive tackles. Now, Kansas, in the interim, has played two kind of dumpster fire offensive line situations at the time that they played them. Like, Illinois did not look put together in that game.
The right side of Illinois' offensive line is an absolute mess.
Yeah, and BYU has been a poor offensive line team all year. Nevada is obviously a joke. I'm just saying, like, last year, the caliber of athlete was not similar. I have a hard time getting that out of my mind.
Are we going to see an Ohio State hangover for Notre Dame against Duke? Because last year that hangover was so bad they lost to Marshall at home.
No, because they've spent the entire week counting players, doing I'm sorry, I cheated on my wife's sit-downs to explain what happened and that it's never going to happen again. It was a moment of weakness. No, I don't think so. Notre Dame lost. My opinion of Notre Dame in that game after did not really change at all. I still think it's a really good team. And I think that it's got a very good shot to go on the road this week and beat Duke.
But there's some Kansas and Duke.
Mm-hmm.
In that, like, Duke does not generally beat itself.
Yeah.
Duke is going to make you come out and take it from them. Notre Dame has not been able to hit explosive plays with its outside receivers. Okay. Clemson, a similar team, unable to hit those explosive to the outside receivers. Duke largely handled them. Clemson would move the football, but they wouldn't actually punch it in.